This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
Welcome to today's Talk Business and Politics. I'm Roby Brock, joined by John Brummett of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. We got a little news.
We do.
On a Monday morning. The governor's rolled out a $300 million highway funding plan. We'll get to the particulars of it, and I want to break those down a little bit. But where does this kind of fall in the scope of highway plans you've seen in the past, and how ambitious is this going forward?
Well, the governor's office is proud to say this is the biggest ever, and that's because it comes at the time that it does, that the revenue that they're proposing raises more money than it used to. Revenue is always growing. But I don't diminish or minimize the program. This is an innovative, bold program, $300 million. It fits in a vision that I see that Asa has for the state.
Explain that.
He wants Arkansas to be an economically thriving place, and I think he sees it. It's not to say I see it, but I think he sees it, and the components of it, leaving this session, I think he wants a state in which we no longer have the highest top income tax rate in the region, which he thinks has always dragged us down. Meantime, we're gearing up, if the voters will approve in 2020, and we haven't talked about the particulars of the program yet, to really improve our infrastructure, which is something the federal government's been unable to do.
Yeah.
And I think this is probably of Asa's 8 years he will spend as governor, Lord willing, this is the time when he's really trying to impose his vision. We'll see this session, and I think if all of this gets enacted, as the one that defined what Hutchinson was all about. Asaism, we could call it.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, that's a pretty bold statement there.
Yeah.
So this is a defining moment.
Well, sure.
All right, so let's go through the components of this highway plan. A half-cent sales tax, which the voters would have to approve. That would be an extension of a current half-cent sales tax.
Extends what we're currently paying, but which is due to expire in
2022.
Mm-hmm. So we would approve it in 2020, and then it would kick in without expiration permanently as an element if the vote of our highway funding, if the voters approve it.
And a 3-cent increase in the regular fuel tax, and a 6-cent increase in the diesel fuel tax, which does have support from the Trucking Association and the Good Roads folks there. Registration fees for alternative vehicles, and then some casino money. Let's go to the diesel fuel tax at first, and the gas tax on consumers there. This is something the legislature can approve. Is there a downside for legislators in approving a gas tax?
Yes, but not much probably. I think you're just going to get the usual liberal whining, which I'm good at, in which I can now engage in. But it's just a fact. In this same session, let's be clear, the governor, after I just praised his vision, and I do praise his vision, but his particulars, this is what he's doing. He is proceeding to, and I think he'll get all this probably done, reduce income taxes, taking $97 million from the general fund, $76 million of which will go to people making $456,000 a year. Okay, he's going to take $76 million out of the general fund and give it to people making $456,000 a year. Meantime, he and the legislature are going to raise what you pay at the pump per gallon on your motor fuel if you're a working man trying to get down the road to get to work. That is a shift of a tax burden that I believe is unfair. I think there are not enough of us in Arkansas who care or get worked up about that to cause any problem.
It does make it a user-oriented fee, though, versus
well, that's the issue of fairness, that you pay it according to your use, to which I say, the ones who have to use it are the ones who have to get out and go to work and pay their own costs of transportation and those sorts of things. But it only takes a majority vote. And as I understand it, and all this is iffy, the governor just had his deal, and we haven't got all the particulars.
This is called a hot take, John.
I know that,
yeah.
But I think in addition to these 3 and 6, that's the initial, and after that, this will be indexed, which other states have done, so that as the cost of materials or as costs, I don't know how to be indexed, or costs of highways go up, you have a capped, relatively small annual index, which would make it flexible, which has always been a good idea. So and it's also, this asks the legislature, before they defer the decision to the voters, to step up and take one decision yourself.
Yeah.
Vote on this.
Yeah.
So I think that's...
Which I think there's some courage there to do
I
that.
think
I've heard
so.
it from several
I
of them
think so.
there. Registration fees for alternative vehicles not going to raise a tremendous amount of money, but as electric cars perhaps become more prevalent and steal money away from not consuming gasoline, this is an area of potential growth.
Right now, on the graph that the governor had, the little gray strip, I think it was, for the electric car tax was so small I didn't see it. It was, and as you see, but yeah, this is what he's trying to do. And may I go ahead and say the other part is a casino tax?
Casinos,
Put that,
yes.
because these go together.
Yes, go ahead.
He wants to, it's $300, over $200 million of which the voters would vote for themselves, the constitutional amendment. It's 65 from the motor fuel tax that the legislature would vote. 35, 39, something like that would be tax on alternative electric cars and new casino take to the state, because casino revenue now goes into the general fund. And he's saying we're getting these new casinos going to be coming up online. We're going to get in these expansions at Southland and Oaklawn. And even though the state's take is going to decrease by rate, the increased activity will create more money. All of that is iffy.
Yeah, a little bit predicated on some assumptions.
Right.
Yeah.
But it is, one, it relies on, he would argue, general revenue, which he hasn't wanted to do before, only in the context of new revenue. Mm-hmm. He's saying, yeah, we're tapping some general revenue, I guess, if you want to say that, because this money's from the general revenue, but it's the stuff that's going to come from these new kinds of cars and these new casinos. So it's not going to take from the teachers, it's not going to take from the schools. It's going to take from general revenue. Mm-hmm. And that if there is increase in those sums, if there is, and that's debatable about what happens from the casinos, it would otherwise go to schools and general needs. So he is taking from general revenue at a time he's also taking $97 million out of it for income tax for the well-to-do. So there are all sorts of issues and there's column fodder there for me. But as a program, as stepping up to the responsibility, it's got a legislative element, it's got a public element, and he does sort of use general revenue, but I'll give him credit, he's found a way to use it
in the most careful of ways as he could.
In a careful way, so long as he's right that this casino thing comes out in the wash with more money for the state. Yeah. If it doesn't, he's taking it straight out of existing general revenue. It will
come out with more money eventually. Maybe not in year one or year two, but eventually you will see a big uptick in those special revenues.
You think people are going to be going to these casinos?
Well, yeah, and there's going to be more of them online. Right. So, I mean, you're for sure going to get one in Pine Bluff. Russellville, maybe
the one if we're counting on the one in Russellville, it's not certain
But
yet.
The two in Hot Springs and West Memphis will be bigger.
Long game, we're going to have more casino activity in the state. Yeah, all right.
All right, last question to you on the subject. Does any part of this not pass? Or does the whole thing, you think it will be successful? Go ahead and predict it now.
I think it'll all pass. I think the 3/4 vote is tough. I mean, and I'm still, the idea of the income tax cut getting through 3/4 is they can't have many Republican defections. They're going to get that done, but right now that's trouble. But this plan, a 50% vote plus one on the motor fuel tax index, yeah. The general revenue, oh yeah. Okay. And the rest is left to the voters. And the last time the voters had a chance to vote on this very same thing, they overwhelmingly approved it, even as I predicted that they wouldn't. So I thought they were anti-tax. They're anti-tax unless it's for highways, apparently. So the odds are they'll pass that. So in the end, we'll get it all. All
right. And the governor will be out there selling it. And typically when a governor goes out and sells, it does help strengthen a program. Not always, but most of the time.
Okay.
All right.
I know you are right, yeah.
John Brummett with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Good to be with you.
All right, buddy.
All right,
always a pleasure.
All right. That's all for today's program. I'm Roby Brock. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
You'll find us at the end of a lot of long country roads, covering over 60% of the great state of Arkansas. Our 17 electric distribution cooperatives are working day and night to provide reliable, affordable power to over 500,000 homes, farms, and businesses, just like yours. The Electric Cooperatives of Arkansas, your local energy partners.
Each day, the promise of our nation begins again. Arkansas and America moving forward. I help make that promise a reality. It's not for everyone, but people everywhere depend on us.
Oh, I love you too, sweetie.
Trucking delivers, or everything stops. And that's what drives me.